This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427, and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year, and Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley.
Welcome to Steam Review, the only show where you can see me talk about video games and rank them against each other. Today I'll be talking about the game The Stanley Parable. This is actually an HD remake of a Half-Life 2 mod of the same name. The HD remake was met with amazing reviews. Critics loved the game, and from what I could tell, players felt the same. This video will have spoilers for the game throughout the entire thing, so let's get into it.
Stanley was fat and ugly and really stupid.
The Stanley Parable is a story about beginnings and endings. None of that may sound basic. Well, of course the story has a beginning and an ending, but the story has multiple endings. With this game, it kind of throws out the whole concept of you having any part in the game altogether. The main story involves an office worker, number 427, also known as Stanley, as his co-workers completely disappear and he tries to figure out what happened by searching the office. He quickly stumbles onto a secret mind control facility in the building, shuts down the power, and is finally free. Or at least that's how the narrator wants to tell it. The thing is, the narrator may be telling the story, but you have the choice to either go along with the story or go against it.
At last, the one thing you've always desired. A game I had absolutely nothing to do with.
Easily the most important thing in this game is the characters, the three there are. The nearly omnipotent narrator, Stanley, and you. Now, obviously Stanley is just the character we play as, right? So why separate us and Stanley? The game offers a solution to this problem by showing that we are in fact not Stanley. Sometimes he's completely aware about you being a real person, and in others he's shocked that you don't listen to him, and in one ending, specifically, he realizes that you are just a real person taking Stanley's place.
None of these decisions were supposed to mean anything. I don't understand. How on earth are you making meaningful choices? What did you... Wait a second. Did I just see... No, that's not possible. I can't believe it. How had I not noticed it sooner? You're not Stanley. You're a real person.
It's weird when you think about it, but all these endings are canonically happening simultaneously. The game's point is to shut down the idea of choice in video games, which is why the narrator's there, as he's bound to the player's choices as Stanley is. Whatever choice you make, the narrator has a dialogue tree for it. The narrator is the game, with an amazing performance by Kevin Brighting.
Oh, it's ruined. I can't believe, after everything we talked about, that my story, you've destroyed my work. Why? For what? What did you get out of that? What did you think was so special about seeing the game undone, left here like so much garbage? It's worthless now. Stanley, this fern will be very important later in the story.
Now, the Stanley Parable has incredibly simple gameplay mechanics. WASD to walk, you use the mouse to click, control to crouch, the same fundamentals as in many games. Now, since this is a story-based game, it doesn't require that advanced gameplay, and I think that having simple controls is a benefit to the game instead of a detriment. There is no jump button in the game, which limits you even more, to make the player feel more powerless. This is key to the recurring theme made by the game that no matter what choice you make, it's already been made for you.
When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same.
The gameplay is simple, but it plays into the story. The game looks similar to other popular Steam games of the time, like Portal and Gmod. I did notice multiple glitches throughout my playthroughs, and only one reset was broken, with nothing happening, no narration, nothing. It looked bland in the main office, but that's because it has to be. The office has to look bland and boring. In other parts of the game, it's incredibly colorful, it looks really creative, so obviously it's not a lack of creativity that's stopping them from making a colorful, happy game.
I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought.
The Stanley Parable, as I've said before, is a game about endings. It all stems from one starting room, being your office, and it's up to you to see how the story progresses. Personally, I think that adding more endings creates a much more enjoyable game. Every ending has something to say, with either a joke to tell or some insight into the characters. Many endings have references to other endings, and in one's case a reference to its Half-Life 2 incarnation. This means you kind of have to play them all to get the references. In multiple endings, you are tormented by the narrator as he plays a more villainous role. In others, you torment the narrator. Like in one ending where you take away the one thing that actually makes him happy by killing yourself.
My God, is this really how much you dislike my game? That you'll throw yourself from this platform over and over to be rid of it? You were literally willing to kill yourself to keep me from being happy. Am I reading the situation correctly?
The game's many options for endings adds to the replayability, even if you've played them all.
Did you do it because you hate babies or purely to spite me?
The Stanley Parable is a master in subverting expectations with its own game. Kevin Briding's brilliant performance makes the narrator so much more fun and energetic. I definitely think the Stanley Parable is a much more enjoyable game than Undertale. While I think Undertale was a great game, in Undertale I felt neutral on so many characters I couldn't feel bad for them or care for their personal dilemmas. In the Stanley Parable, the narrator is able to make you feel bad for him at some times, but also make you hate him in others. In this particular instance, I would rate the Stanley Parable having a much more interesting story, even if it does have a lot more restrictive gameplay. So I'm definitely ranking the Stanley Parable above Undertale, as I think, even with some of its graphical errors, it was a much more enjoyable experience with a lot of replayability. So thank you for watching yet another Steam review. Today I actually have a couple options for the next Steam review in the card section, and if your pick doesn't win, don't worry, I'll be reviewing that in the episode after. So once again, thank you for watching and presumably for voting, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!